So I want to show you something. In about 10 minutes from now, you're going to write your first line of Python code and you're going to understand exactly what a variable is, what a function is, and how a real program actually works. Okay? So this is not theory, this is not a textbook definition, this is not a lecture, this is actual code running on a screen and actually doing something real. So if you've never coded before in your life, that's fine. That's actually perfect because everything I'm about to show is designed for someone who has zero experience. My name is Anwar. I'm a software engineer and I've taught programming to hundreds of students and I've helped hundreds more go from complete beginners to working in tech. So if you just stay with me for the next 10 to 12 minutes, by the end of this, you'll know more about how software works than most people. Okay? So first, why tech specifically? Why is everyone talking about it? So the UK industry right now, UK tech industry is worth about £150 billion, and there are about 200,000 unfulfilled tech roles in this country alone. So software developers, data analysts, cybersecurity professionals, cloud engineers, employers are desperate for these people. And the starting salary, you can expect anywhere from 28,000 to 45,000. Mid-level roles hit between 50 to 70,000, and in senior engineers actually break six figures. So here's what makes tech different from almost every other career. So number one, location doesn't matter. You can work wherever you go. So most companies offer remote working. You can work from home or you can go do a hybrid way of working. So the lifestyle that comes with a tech career is actually genuinely unlike anything else. But here's what a lot of people don't tell you. You don't need a degree and you don't need to be a maths genius. You don't need to have these certificates. You just need to understand how software thinks. Yeah? And that's exactly what I'm about to show you. The fundamentals that you're going to be taught today are the same fundamentals I use and every other professional software engineer uses at every company. Okay? So, variables, that's the first thing we're going to go through. Okay, so this is where programming actually starts. So a variable is essentially just a box, as you can see, a labeled box, actually I should say, that stores information. Now I've got three different boxes here. The first one's called name, second is called age, and the third is employed. Okay, so the first one that's called name, inside of it I'm storing the value Anwar. Yeah, that's it, that's a variable. The second one is called age, storing a number, of course. And then the third one is employed, storing the value true. Now watch what happens when I run the code. The computer will read each variable and then prints what's inside the box. Name, Anwar, age 28, is employed, true. Now here's why this matters. Every piece of software that you've ever used, whether it's a banking app or social media, it stores information in variables the same way it's storing information here. So your balance is a variable, your username is a variable, your email is a variable. Okay, so now you just understood the building block of every application that exists. Yeah, so the next thing I'm going to go through is data types. So what is a data type? Now all information is not the same type. As you can imagine, there's different types of data. Yeah, so for example, text like your name, email address, message, that's called a string. Yeah, so anything in quotation is called a string. Whole numbers are called integers. Yeah, and decimal numbers are called floats, or sometimes decimal in other programming languages. So this is like price, percentages, temperatures, that's a float. And then there's boolean. Boolean is just true or false, or yes or no. Now boolean sounds complicated but you use it every single day. So you need to remember that you use this every single day. So for example, if you logged into a website, one of the booleans checks that will happen is the user logged in already? Yes or no? Is the payment complete if you made a payment? Yes or no? Is this item in stock if you're trying to buy an item? Yes or no? So everything in software comes down to these four types: strings, integers, floats, and booleans. Okay, now as the code is running, what I've done here is Python tells us it's a string from here, okay, or tells us what the type is. So I wrap around the variable, which has the values at the top here. I wrap it around type, and then that should tell me what the type is. Yeah, so if I go to the next page, as you can see, it's typing. Yeah, and it's just printing out the actual values. Yeah, sorry, it's printing out the types. Python is literally telling you what kind of information you're working with. Okay, so now you understand data types. Most people spend weeks confused about this. You actually got this in 60 seconds. So let's go to the next slide. If statements. Okay, so this is where it gets actually interesting, because this is where computers actually start to make decisions. Okay, so if you look at this diamond here, this is called a conditional, so an if statement. Yeah, the computer asks a question. In this case, is age greater than or equal to 18? Then it takes a different action depending on the answer. So I can either take the no action, or I can either take a yes action. If it's a no, then the access is denied. If it's a yes, then welcome. Now look at the code here. If age is greater than or equal to 18, print welcome. Yeah. Otherwise, print access denied. Now I set the age as 20 in the beginning, so the first message should be welcome. But then I changed the age afterwards, 8 to 15, and suddenly we get access denied. The same code, different data, different outcome. Okay, this is how every decision in every app works. So for example, should I show this user an advert? If statement. Should I basically charge this card using this card? If statement. Should I send this notification? If statement. Every piece of logic in every application you've ever used is built exactly from this. Now we're going to go into a little bit more advanced topic. As you can see, the numbers as they light up, as you can see, this is running a loop. So instead of writing print 1, print 2, print 3, print 4, print 5, which is 5 separate lines of code, I just have this for I in range, print 1 to 6. Now why is it 6 instead of 5? Because I've printed 5 numbers, but then I've got 6 here. Well, in Python, the 6 here is non-inclusive. The 6 here is not inclusive, meaning it's not included in the print, but the 1 is included. So whatever you put as the first value is inclusive, like it's including 1, and it's not including 6, so it stops at 5. Okay, so loops are how computers do any repetitive work really instantly. So if you wanted to send 10,000 emails, if you wanted to loop, but if you wanted to check 50,000 transactions for fraud, you use a loop. If you wanted to resize 1,000 images, you use a loop. So the thing that used to take humans weeks to complete, now it takes about seconds for a computer to do. Okay, right, now we're going to go into the last section, which is functions. Yeah, now this is the one that changes everything. So a function is essentially a piece of reusable block of code. So basically what happens is you write the code once, a function, and you use it 1,000 times or 1,000,000 times or however many times. So as you can see here, this purple box, we're passing the name Anwar, Joseph, Akhtar, yeah, and this function takes the names. This function is called greet. It processes the name, and then it prints out a message. Now the message looks identical, but the only difference is the input is different. So the output is based on the name that was inputted. So one function, 3 completely different outputs depending on what we input. Now this is the function that I wrote here, which is the code translation of the whiteboard, what you see here. So I define a function, I write a variable, which is the message, and then I pass the name in curly braces, which is how you put a variable inside of a string in Python. F basically just stands for this is F string, it's just formatting, yeah, to format it so that it has the name and then spaces between the name, and I could actually put a variable inside of a string, and I just return a message. Now I've printed 3 different messages, but each one is calling the same function, as you can see. Now we can look at a code that's a bit more useful, more relatable to the world. So if I wanted to use a calculate to calculate a salary, for example, as you can see here, I'm passing in 20 and 40, okay, and that's £20 an hour and 40 hours a week. As you can see here, the name of the variable is called hourly rate and hours per week. And basically I'm doing a bit of calculation, so I'm calculating the weekly amount that they're earning, so the £20 times 40 hours, and then times that by 52, which gives me the whole year's salary, and that comes up to 41,600. So in 3 lines of code, I basically built a salary calculator. Now I can just take this and add, change the numbers a little bit. I can say 80 instead of £20 an hour. That, and then now it increases to 166,000. So in 3 lines of code, we built a salary calculator, and the functions are how software is built. Every button you click, or every page that loads, every search result that appears, there's a function that sits behind it. So someone wrote that function once, and basically it's been running ever since. Okay, so you now understand variables, data types, if statements, loops, and functions. So these are 5 concepts that are the foundation or the building block of every programming language that exists, whether it's Python, JavaScript, Java, C++, Swift. They all use these exact same concepts. So what you've done is you've just learned the fundamentals of software development. Okay, so I just want for you to take a minute and ask yourself, how does that feel? And I want you to think about what just happened here. So 20 minutes ago, you probably had no idea what a variable was. Now you understand what variables are, data types, if statements, loops, and functions. And you've seen real Python code running. You've seen the output. So this is real code. This is the same syntax that professional developers actually use every day. So I just want you to understand one thing. So the feeling of, oh, I actually got this now, I actually understand, that's what every single session on the Learnfinity platform feels like. Every week, or every topic that we cover, whether it's building a web app or analyzing data, or whatever we're doing, whatever that subject is or that topic, every session is taught exactly like this. So everything is practical and visual and real code and real outcomes. So we don't do slides full of bullet points. There's not a lecturer style sort of type of learning. It's very interactive and animated and hands-on, because that's the best way to actually learn, not by watching but actually doing and being more hands-on. So this is a short period of time to cover like these 5 areas, but imagine what 8 weeks looks like. Okay, now I'll just tell you some of the common mistakes that a lot of people do. So when people are trying to break into tech, or they try to do it by themselves, they jump from tutorial to tutorial. They follow along, they copy the code. It works, sometimes it breaks, but then they just, they try to build something and they have absolutely no idea how that will be used in the real industry. So you could be working on something for months, but copying isn't learning. That's not the best way to learn. Also, watching doesn't necessarily mean you understand. So the students that really, really break into tech successfully and land the jobs and get the high salaries and make the career change, they did these 3 things. I want you to pay attention. The first thing that they did is they had a structured path. They didn't jump from between random videos. They had a clear week by week progression where each concept builds on the last. The second thing that they did is they built real industry standard projects. So things that could actually be put on their CV, that whatever company that they're applying to also would be like, wow, this is actually would be helpful for us as well. And they can actually confidently talk about it in their interview. And then the last thing that they did is they had someone who actually works in the industry, who's guiding them, and someone who gives them that accountability. Yeah. Or someone that could answer real questions, catch any real mistakes, and keep them on track. So that's what's built here, and this is what we help you with. And here's what I want to offer you today. I don't want to offer the full course or program, so you don't need to commit to 8 weeks. You just need to, I want you to just commit to 1 week. So you put down a £49 deposit and you get instant access to the first full week, okay, of whichever track interests you the most, whether it's cloud, cybersecurity, software development, data, Python, yeah, whatever your goal is. You log in within minutes of paying that deposit and you see the platform. You do the first full week's worth of labs and hands-on work, and you experience what the teaching actually feels like beyond this session. If you decide it's not for you, you've only spent £49, and which is less than a meal. And if you love it and you actually want to continue, and based on everything that you've seen, your £49 comes straight off the full course price. So instead of paying £297, you pay £248. I want you to remember, you're not buying a course, you're buying certainty that this is the right path for you before you actually commit. That's why we offer this 1 week first, for you to see if this is the right path, okay? So all it is £49, instant access, your first week of the rest of your tech career. So scroll down, click the button, and I'll see you inside.